I've used the word agile in the title here, and I actually considered taking it out when I saw the other presentations here, because I'm not explicitly talking about agile development here. I mean agile in its normal English semantic way, meaning you can move around easily and quickly. So having said that, though, what I wanted to share with you today is another technique for getting usability type data in a more agile way than even the sort of standard usability testing that is often done in an agile development process. So, one thought to lead things off with here. We have to be aware that usability is not a science. It's definitely an art. And if you want any proof of this, go check out Rolf Molich's studies, the Q studies, C-U-E. The URL is up here, but I can point it to you later. He's done a number of studies now, about 8 of them, I think, where he's had usability teams from around the world come together and do a usability test of the same product. And then he gets all the reports, and he compares the results, and he sees, what did we end up with? And, well, we ended up with all kinds of stuff. And really, at the end, there's very little consistency. So from one of his studies, they did 9 teams. Out of the total of 310 usability problems that were identified, 75% of them only showed up once. And an incredibly small number of them were found by all the teams. And by that, I mean about 4 or 5 problems were found by all the teams. So a huge amount of disagreement. So we've got a lot of evidence showing us that this is more of an art, it's not a science. Now with that in mind, another fact I would say here, regardless of whether you're doing agile development or any other process, even waterfall process, is that design and development needs a lot more course corrections and checkpoints than we can get from any sort of traditional usability. Even guerrilla usability techniques, and there are books written on this, I feel are too slow. And so what I'm going to share with you today is another method that when I was at Quarry, we coined the design checkpoint. Now, when I was at Quarry, we did quite a lot of usability tests for a lot of different clients. And I've got to say that if you did 3 usability tests over the course of an entire project, that's actually quite a lot. I'd be curious to know whether other people's experiences are in line with that. Very commonly, you might have 1 test done, maybe 2. 3 is a lot. On rare occasions would anybody ever invest in more than that. And you know what? That's just not enough. Checkpoints. I have the picture of the airplane up here because I think I first, about 15 years ago, heard Jared Spool use this metaphor. He said, an airplane is on course to its destination less than 1% of the time. There are so many factors buffeting this airplane and keeping it off course that they have to constantly make course corrections. And I feel it's the same way in software development or web development. So even if you do 3, 4, 5, even if you do 6 usability tests, I think that's not enough course corrections. You could end up building something and then discovering, oops, we could have done a lot better than that. So we need a lot of checkpoints. So the checkpoint, hence the design checkpoint. Basically, what I'm advocating here is that you take something that kind of looks at the surface a little bit like a usability test, but make it fast, make it simple, and do it often. Make it really cheap. And it comes down to basically just take 1 designer, 1 user, and 1 hour. And you spend an hour together. And you look at whatever artifacts you have as a designer. It could be your sketches, it could be prototypes, wireframes, it could be a piece of functioning software, whatever. Sitting down and talking to a customer about something you're working on is always a valuable exercise. And so this is the idea of a design checkpoint. Now I'm going to tell you a little bit more about a couple of types of design checkpoints. Oh yes, I mustn't forget this. This is a program. This isn't something you just do once. The real value comes out of this when you make this like a weekly activity. Or, to be honest, more realistically, it's usually every 2 weeks or so. Just make it part of your plan. Say, every Monday, we know from, say, 2 to 4, we're going to have a design checkpoint with a customer. And often the biggest work involved in this is just finding somebody to come in. But that's a task that you can offload to somebody who's in a more administrative role. They can find somebody and arrange for them to come in. So just have a standing date with somebody. and you sit down and talk about what you're doing. So there are 3 types of checkpoints that we have found, and they tend to come at 3 different stages in your project, really early, middle, and late. Not surprising. So I'm going to quickly tell you what we've got here. Discovery checkpoints. This is the stuff you do really early when, quite honestly, you don't have a lot of stuff designed yet. There is a huge amount of value in sitting down with people who might use your product even before you've started to think about how to design it. And there are a bunch of exercises you can do that look nothing at all like a usability test. You don't have a product, so you can't give people a task and have them do something. But you can still talk to them. Learn about the context in which they would use the product. Some of the exercises that you could do here can be kind of fun. The less fun ones might be a task inventory. Just simply brainstorm with somebody what are all the things they would do using this product for. Some of the more fun ones are go shopping. Tell people that they've got a budget of $100 and how much money would they spend on each of the features or parts of the software that you guys can imagine together, and how much money would they allocate to each of those. You can design the box. This is a fun exercise. Actually bring a box with you and some crayons and markers, and together design what would the package of this thing be when it releases to the market. What are the messages? What's the name? What are we going to call out as the benefits? It's a fun exercise, but it's a way of getting people to sort of tell you something about what they're expecting from the software, and that's what you want to discover early on in a discovery checkpoint. Moving along. Once you've gotten into the design, there's a long period where you're actually designing this thing, all right? And during that period, you want a lot of checkpoints as well. So this is what I call the exploration checkpoint. You want to explicitly try a whole bunch of completely different ideas at this point. Don't lock yourself into a certain path unless you've really seriously played with some different ideas and shown these ideas to other people. So the exploration checkpoint is for this point in time. How are we doing time? I heard beep. Okay. Is that it?
That's it.
Okay. I'm almost done. But that's the end of the time. I have 2 more slides. So. Okay, keep going. We're eating into the question time here. The alright. Sorry, that's it, folks. The one point that I want to just leave you with here is what this takes advantage of is this weird artifact in a usability test where the very first participant in a usability test is your most valuable. If anybody has had a chance to watch a usability test, it's inevitable that you're going to see something in that test that you say, oh yeah, well we should fix that. Well stop! You don't need to see 7 other people or 8 other people experience that. And that's what this is leveraging. So get people in frequently and find those showstoppers, these things.